Welcome to The Real with Joseph Labman. I am Joseph Labman. Thank you for tuning in this episode of The Real, taking time out of your day to come watch this episode. I really appreciate that. If you haven't subscribed already, please subscribe for me. I'd really appreciate that as well. That's the best way you can support this channel and help me grow my content and grow this channel to where I'd like it to be. Everybody hit the like button for me on the way in on this video today. That also helps promote this video more in the algorithms, helps grow this channel more as well. Please share this content. I would really appreciate that. My guests would as well. If you would please share this episode with someone you know that maybe is interested in the topic we're talking about today. Please leave a comment below as well. We'd love to hear your guys' feedback. You can interact with myself and the guest on the panel and the live chat as well. Whatever we're talking about, just leave a comment there in the live chat. Pop in and say hello. We'll put it on the screen for you. And yeah, without further ado, let's get to the show. Welcome back to The Real with Joseph Labman. I am Joseph Labman, your host. I hope you guys are having a great day today. Happy Monday and post Super Bowl Sunday. And I will say I'm happy the Eagles won. Shout out to the Philadelphia and the Eagles. It was crazy last night in Philly. Obviously, I wanted Philly to win, not only because, like a lot of people, I didn't want to see the Chiefs win again because I'm just kind of tired over the whole Chiefs thing. Nothing. I like Patrick Mahomes. I like Andy Reid, Chris Jones, but I'm over all the other stuff and the little sideshow and all that. I'm just kind of over it all. But not gonna lie to you. But shout out to the Eagles. I was rooting for the Eagles too because my man Paris Campbell from Akron, Ohio, plays for the Eagles, number 80. So shout out to you, Paris. Congratulations, bro. And so yeah, it was a fun night and watching him win his Super Bowl. He's a state champion, national champion at Ohio State, state champion in high school at St. V, and now he's a Super Bowl champion. So shout out to Paris. So it was pretty cool to see him win, and cool to see somebody else other than the Chiefs win. So, but that's not why I'm here today, though, to talk about the Super Bowl or any of that. You know, season's over with now. Obviously, now we're into the off season. We got a big off season here in Cleveland. Probably the biggest off season I've seen from the Browns, maybe in my lifetime. Definitely since 2018 when they had the draft with Baker and Denzel Ward and all that. So this is it. This is gonna be a huge offseason, especially for Andrew Berry, Kevin Stefanski, Jimmy Haslam, and Paul DePodesta. I linked all those guys together, and so today's show is kind of piggybacking off of where I left off last week, and we did a live show reacting to the breaking news of Myles Garrett requesting the trade from the Browns. And so a lot has unfolded since then. And I have a thought and a take today about why I think there could be a civil war brewing in Berea. And so let's get into it now. And so Myles Garrett last week requested a trade. We all know that, not breaking news. We all knew that a week ago. And so I listened to this stuff unfold all week. And Myles Garrett goes on Radio Row at the Super Bowl. And does his little media tour. Now a lot of people are getting it on Myles, saying that he went and did that after the trade request to really take shots at the Browns. A lot of fans are getting pissed at Myles about it. I understand where fans are coming from. Now, I do think though Myles was already pre-planned to go to the media thing because he was like a spokesman for the yogurt Oikos, I believe it's called. I don't know if anybody's brought that up, but Myles was there on behalf of Oikos. As a spokesperson. And so he goes on a little media tour. He's trying to promote their product. Now, do I think Myles dropped the trade request knowing he was going to go do that? Absolutely. He knew, and he knows. He knew if he would have dropped that trade request like he did on Monday, that 2 days later he'll be at the media row at the Super Bowl, and they're going to ask him about it, obviously like Rich Eisen did. So Myles knew what he was doing all along. Obviously, that's not a thing. It's not like everybody knows that. And so, yesterday, Mary Kay Cabot put out an article from what Myles went on ESPN yesterday. And it says, Myles says, quote, "I'm willing to do whatever it takes to make the Browns trade him." He says he said on the Super Bowl pregame show when Teddy Bruschi asked him a question on ESPN. And so Myles said he's going to do whatever it takes, right? And so here's my whole take on all this. And I'm going to take this to a different level now, kind of how I'm viewing this, and why I think there's a civil war brewing possibly in Berea. And so let's go backwards now. So Myles said he's going to do whatever it takes. So what does he really mean by that? Well, let me break it down, maybe what I think he could have meant by that. And so last week, when the trade request went down, Adam Schefter said that the Browns were not surprised by the trade request, basically, and that they are, quote, dug in and they have no plans to trade Myles Garrett. And so here's what Adam Schefter said. Let me see what I'll play here. Give me 1 second. This is on the Pat McAfee show the day of the trade request. If I can get it to load, I'll see if it goes here in a second. But Adam Schefter said on the show, on the Pat McAfee show, that the Browns were dug in. They were not surprised by this. And so when I hear the Browns saying that they weren't surprised by this and that they're not going to trade him, but then you hear Myles say after that he's going to do whatever it takes to get it done. Where is this going to head to? Because it seems like this could get ugly really fast. That this whole thing could be a long, dragged out situation to where Myles starts taking deeper shots, maybe the organization, or the organization takes little subtle shots at Myles. Say, Myles, we're not trading you. You either got to retire or just sit out. It's up to you. I don't know if Myles wants to do that. Now, here's Adam Schefter. Okay, I got it played now. All right, so here's Adam Schefter last week saying how the Browns were not surprised by this and how they are dug in.
Oh, wow. Defensive Player of the Year candidate every single year, wanting to be traded with 2 non-guaranteed years left on his contract, just 1 week removed from the general manager saying they aren't listening to any trade offers for him. How did we get here? And is he only going to contenders, or is he going to other buildings that have money and potentially a better vision than Cleveland Browns?
If he's going, again, because we have a team here in the Cleveland Browns. I know we get swept up in the moment. We've got this Defensive Player of the Year requesting a trade out of Cleveland, and this is not a surprise to the Browns. The Browns knew about his unhappiness. I think they've asked around, they've prepared for it. They've gotten some opinions about how to best handle this situation, knowing that it could be coming. And I think that they are dug in and entrenched in their stance that they're not going to trade Myles Garrett. That's not the kind of player you move on from. You're talking about arguably the best defensive player in the league, 29 years old. That's a player that helps you win a Super Bowl, and that's what the Browns want to try to do. So, again, we can continue to talk about this, and we will, because it's certainly interesting. But we also have one side here in the Cleveland Browns that doesn't want to trade Myles Garrett and says it won't trade Myles Garrett. And the GM, Andrew Berry, even has told reporters that he doesn't care if he's offered 2 number ones, he's not trading Myles Garrett. Now, what we have, what changes the equation some potentially, is we've got Myles Garrett now going public with the statement and the idea that he does want out of Cleveland. He wants to play on a team where he believes he's got a chance to win a Super Bowl, which obviously he doesn't feel like is the case in.
And so a lot of what Adam Schefter said, I want to break down because it kind of goes into the point I'm making today about why I think there's a civil war brewing in Berea. And so the first thing he mentions there is the Browns are dug in and they have no intentions of trading Myles Garrett. Okay. And then you hear, like you said after there, Myles Garrett now threw a different wrench in the thing because he went public with his trade request and he went on the media row and has said publicly now that he wants out of Cleveland, wants to play for a contender, and now he's willing to do whatever it takes. Well, here's something that threw me off though. Remember back when Hard Knocks was going on in the AFC North during the season? Remember the last one the Browns were featured on was Myles Garrett. And Myles Garrett was followed around that week, and he spoke on the show about him and Andrew Berry had talked, had spoken, and that he felt they were closer than, people think. And that he wants to stay there in Cleveland. He wants to win. He just wanted to know what their plan was. That he sat and met with them, and it sounded like the meeting went okay, according to him, and that they're closer than people think. So what changed between then to now? I don't know, how do we get from a month ago you're saying we're closer than people think and I really don't want to leave and I met with Andrew Berry and everything was cool, to now all of a sudden get me out of here, I'm never going to play another down for them, and I'm going to go in the media and make it known that I want out of Cleveland. What has changed? And so the only thing I can look and think to is when I hear Adam Schefter say that the Browns knew he was disgruntled for a while, they knew that this was going to be coming. You heard Denzel Ward say he wasn't stunned by it either. He knew it was coming. David Njoku spoke about it as well. It's not like any of the players were surprised by it because they all kind of knew what was going on. They all talk, like Denzel said. They knew the temperature of the room. But Why did Myles all of a sudden just drop a bomb publicly and completely shift in a month? What happened in a month? And so I look at it as this. Okay. So the Radio Row thing to me was, and not just the Radio Row, but when he wrote his letter, he specifically wrote in that letter that my goal is not to go from Cleveland to Canton. It is to win Super Bowls, right? That was a direct shot at Andrew Berry, because Andrew Berry, 2 weeks before that, I believe, said that our goal is for Myles to go from Canton to Cleveland. And I have that pulled up right here from Mary Kay Cabot's article, the day he asked for a trade. Right here, you guys remember this. Right here. So we scroll down. It says the goal was never to go from Canton to Cleveland. It has always been to compete and win for a Super Bowl. That's from Myles' letter, right? And so Andrew Berry, though, said, so let me say in terms of Myles, my expectation is that he'll have a direct ticket from Cleveland to Canton at the end of this year and expect him to be here and retire a Brown, quite frankly. Then Andrew Berry doubled down on it at the Senior Bowl last week, the week before Myles, 2 weeks ago from now, where Myles, before he made his trade request public. And he said that he reiterated the Senior Bowl last week that he met with a trio of Browns beat reporters covering the event. He said he wouldn't trade Myles, not even for 2 first-round picks, and that you can put that on the record. You can put that on the record. So, Andrew Berry. So let's backtrack here. We go from the Hard Knocks episode a month ago, a little over a month ago, where Myles said that he met with Andrew Berry and that they're closer than people think, and that he wants to stay here in Cleveland. That they met, and it sounds like the meeting went okay. That they're going to have more meetings, obviously. What the hell changed in a month? To where now you're going out full blast and saying, I'm getting the hell out of here. I think Andrew Berry going out publicly and saying that, the 2 comments about Cleveland to Canton comment really obviously pissed Myles off because he mentioned it in his letter, but then also doubling down on it at the Senior Bowl week and saying that you can put that on the record that I'm not trading Myles no matter what, not even for 2 first-round picks. I think that pissed Myles off. I think Myles took it as a, kind of a jab and almost kind of like, you think you can control me? You think that I'm just going to shut up and do as I'm told? You think that you just have all this power over me that, I think Myles was going to keep it cool. I don't think Myles is going to make it as public as he's made it. But because Andrew Berry went and spoke to the media twice, not once, but twice, and spoke on it like it was already a thing. I mean, Andrew Berry was speaking as if like Myles already sent in a trade request. And maybe he did privately behind the scenes. And Andrew Berry goes out and doubles down and says, I'm not trading you no matter what. And you could put that on the record. And then you go and see Myles write a letter on his trade request and taking a shot at the GM. To me, this signals that there is a clear beef between Myles Garrett and Andrew Berry that's developed within the last month. And also, I think Myles has had things brewing with the organization, the front office, for a while. I'm sure a lot of players, if I can point it out, I'm sure a lot of players probably aren't as, key to Paul DePodesta's influence over the organization. The team's misdirection of quarterbacks a lot of times, and at the quarterback position, not being able to settle that position. When I hear guys like Denzel Ward and David Njoku coming out and speaking as publicly as they did last week about it, especially Denzel, and how Denzel was saying that he might even possibly, now Denzel doesn't have the leverage Myles has, but that he may possibly want to get out of here, basically is what he was saying. Because like Denzel said last week, if you're trying to win now, why would you trade a future Hall of Famer? That doesn't make any sense, right? And he is right. Why would you trade Myles Garrett if you're trying to win now? And so, to me, though, the Browns knew it was coming, right? I think something will happen behind the scenes within a month where they probably had a little more meetings. And you heard Myles Garrett say that we're not really aligned in terms of where I want to be now, where they're going. And so I think that something happened in a meeting or something happened behind the scenes right after the season. Something really soured fast. For Andrew Berry to come out and talk as freely like he did about Myles and saying, I'm not trading you. I wonder if Myles maybe behind the scenes was saying that I will do this. If I don't, if you guys don't do X, Y, and Z, I will do this. Right? Basically saying Myles, I think Myles in a lot of ways is trying to force his hand upon the organization. What does Myles really want out of all this? Does he really just want to be traded to a contender? Or was there something else he wanted a month ago? Did he maybe want to push somebody out the door? I don't know. Seems very odd, doesn't it? That all of a sudden you go from Hard Knocks episode a little over a month ago saying, I want to be in Cleveland, we're closer than people think, to now all of a sudden, get me the hell out of town. And then you see Andrew Berry. Andrew Berry is usually very calculated, doesn't give much away. Why would Andrew Berry come out and speak as freely as he did, saying that I'm not trading him no matter what? I've never heard Andrew Berry speak that freely, openly about anything internally. Andrew Berry has always said in his press conferences too. You know, he always tells guys, "You guys know I don't discuss business and stuff publicly." Well, he's doing it here. And I think Myles got pissed, and Myles said, okay, you want to two can play this game. I'll take it public. I'm also with Clutch Sports. We know Clutch Sports can influence a lot of things in the media, and they got a lot of power. We know that. And so I find it really interesting. What is Myles' agenda here? Like, what is his goal with all this? Because you look at the situation, too, from a contractual standpoint. He's under contract for 2 years. So he really doesn't have a lot of leverage. And the Browns can't really trade him right now either from a financial standpoint, because it would put them under the cap. So they're not going to trade him now. And even after the new league year, it's still complicated. So, and yet he's also a first ballot future Hall of Famer who you don't just trade him away for a bag of chips. So doing a deal with a guy like this is very, very complicated. It takes a long time to do. If they were realistically going to trade him, right, if they follow through with his request, he's not getting traded till at the earliest May, in my opinion. Maybe April, late April before the draft. I would say after the draft, possibly when he gets traded. He's not getting traded just like that. You don't just trade a guy like Myles Garrett, in my opinion, just like that, if you're a good GM and a good front office. Now, that's obviously in question with this front office. They've had a lot of questionable, actions in their job. So, we know about that. But what is Myles' real agenda with all this? And I mentioned on my show last week how Myles, he's a Clutch Sports client, and that Myles' agency is actually connected in the Browns front office. And so I have this trick. This is what I broke down last week, and I'm gonna break it down a little bit more here today. But here's what I shared on my show last week about something I discovered recently, and maybe it's something, maybe it's not, but I think it might be something. It's interesting. It's something to point out. All right. And so here's what I found on my show from last week when we went breaking news about something I found about how Myles' agency, Clutch Sports, is connected through the front office, and that maybe Myles has a different agenda here. I don't know. Let me just share this first, and I'll get into it in a second. I found this interesting when I did some research, right? So if I go to Browns front office, okay? So here we are. We're on the Browns website. Yay, look at us. What a great time to be a Browns fan. Not. And we scroll down, okay? Here's management, right? Okay, we got all these names here. Let's go to football operations, shall we? You see that name right there? Tyler Hamlin, Director of Football Operations. Okay, so let me Google now. What does the Director of Football Operations do in the NFL? Okay. The duties and responsibility of a director of football operations may vary from a specific organization, but common task responsibility may include, quote, number one, overseeing player personnel, managing the team facilities, working with the front office. Okay, working with the front office. It says, the director of football operations may work closely with the team's front office to ensure the team's financial stability and to develop and implement strategies to increase revenue. Overseeing player personnel. This may involve managing the team's roster, scouting, recruiting new players, negotiating contracts, and managing the team's salary. Okay? And he does like coordinating team's travel, overseeing the team's coaching staff, handling media relations, managing the team's budget. Okay? Why do I bring up Tyler Hamlin? Right? He's the director of football operations for the Browns. Well, here's what Tyler Hamlin right? If I go to his Twitter page here, give me a second. I'm doing this on the fly, guys. If I go to Tyler Hamlin's Twitter page, right? Mr. Hamlin is married to somebody who works with Clutch Sports. Oh, let me pull her name up. Right? Give me 1 second. I got to find these people's Twitter pages, guys. Give me 1 second. So remember, Tyler Hamlin is director of football operations for the Browns, right? We established that. And we also just established, okay, what does the director of football operations do? You're right here. This is what they do. They manage the team's facilities, oversee player personnel, right? They do all that good stuff, right? And so, and I had this queued up too for my show, and I should have, but I didn't expect to show this today, guys, because this is breaking news. But now it's time to do it. Give me 1 second. So again, let me get her name. So again, Tyler Hamlin's wife works for Clutch Sports. What's Clutch Sports? Myles Garrett's agency. So I'm really curious. This power struggle that's been going on behind the scenes. Obviously, Myles' agency consulted him to do this, to request a trade. And then this report comes out from Tony Grossi about basically throwing DePodesta under the bus, saying he wanted Mitch Trubisky over Myles Garrett. Somebody has that information. And I'm not saying it's Tyler Hamlin, but I'm just saying, I've been saying for a while, I think there is a real power struggle going on in the Browns organization. And I got it right here. Okay, now I found the Twitter page. Excuse me, guys. His wife's name is Vanessa Hutchinson Hamlin. And she is the football coaches and executives director for Clutch Sports. Yeah, senior director of football coaches and executives for Clutch Sports. This is the president of football operations for the Browns. This is his wife. Okay. I'm just doing a little investigation today on the fly for you guys right here. That's her right there. Clutch Sports Group. That's her. That's his wife. He even retweeted it. You can see right there. Ty Hamlin reposted. Okay. And so Myles Garrett has people that are connected to agency. Okay, I'm back. So Myles Garrett has people in the organization that's connected to his agency. And so I see this report today again from Tony Grossi talking about that Paul DePodesta. Okay, so that's what I mentioned on my show last week about the involvement with Clutch Sports in the front office, right? And I even Googled again, too, as I was sitting here. What does Tyler Hamlin do for the Cleveland Browns? And he actually has a LinkedIn page. And it says right there, working in player personnel and football operations. So he's heavily involved in a lot of things the Browns do. And I'm very interested by that because of his involvement with Clutch Sports, obviously, through his home. And so I'm sure he's obviously represented by Clutch Sports. What's the real agenda here, Myles? Are we trying to push out Andrew Berry? Are we trying to push out Paul DePodesta as well? I don't know. Here, I've routinely on the show, I've criticized those two a lot. I think I even have right here what I call the Browns front office. I'll pull it up right here if I still have it. I could routinely have called them the Geek Squad. So, and the San Diego Browns, right? I've called them the San Diego Browns. Let's see if I still have my one slide here, what I put on the building in Berea. I'll have to find it. But, oh, right here. Yeah, I've routinely called them. That's their grade F-. I've given them the grade of F- because I think that the whole Deshaun Watson thing, the whole failure this front office is created here in Cleveland, I've called them the Geek Squad. And you can see right there, I put it on the building. But again, going back to my main point today, what is Myles' real agenda here? And you guys see what I'm pointing out today. You see his involvement in the front office through his agency. By the way, the same agency that represents David Njoku, who also said last week that he's going to try to convince Myles to stay. Interesting. So I'm just really curious here. I think there's a possible civil war going on here. Not really between Myles and Andrew Berry. Really between Myles and ownership. Could Myles be forcing the hand of Jimmy Haslam? Basically saying, I'm going to make you trade me no matter what, or I'm going to try my hardest. And like Myles said, quote, yesterday, he said he's willing to do whatever it takes. I will do whatever it takes to get the hell out of town unless you put people I like, maybe who does Myles want as the football? Who does Myles want as the new GM, or taking over for Paulie Podesta's place, right? Maybe Myles doesn't have somebody in mind. Maybe Myles just wants these guys out of here. Did Myles sit down with Andrew Berry after that Hard Knocks episode right around that time? They met again, and maybe they had some disagreements in terms of how they, like Myles said, obviously Myles said out his mouth, how they align in terms of philosophically, and maybe how Andrew Berry sees building a team. Maybe Myles doesn't think it's the right way. And I'm sure Myles is getting this information back to the players in the locker room, because as freely as Denzel spoke about it and David Njoku, these guys all know what's going on. And I wonder too, how many of these players actually agree with Myles? I think Denzel, 75% at least, agrees with Myles Garrett fully, and probably how he views a lot of things in the organization with upper management. I think a lot of these guys all like Stefanski. That's why I don't mention Stefanski's name, because I don't really think Stefanski has any involvement in this. I mean, maybe Myles wants a different coach, but I don't see that. I think this is more when him and AB are taking shots at each other. I think it's more between those two. It's more between it's this front office, which I have called the Geek Squad, because they're the San Diego Browns, a fully driven and most analytical team in the league, according to a survey by ESPN Sports, or not ESPN, by ESPN.com, not ESPN Sports, excuse me, by ESPN.com. They did a survey. The Browns are the most analytical driven team in the league by far, right? Because of Paulie Podesta's involvement in the organization. We all know it. Andrew Berry was hired over George Payton, who's been the architect of rebuilding the Broncos right now. We hired AB over him because Paulie Podesta liked AB more. AB to me just is a good soldier in the organization. Keep it honest with you. I think Stefanski's more of a good seed in bad soil, which I know like Jay Crawford he said that a lot on UCSS a lot, and I agree with that analysis. I think it's a great way to put it. But Andrew Berry to me is just a good soldier. And that Paulie Podesta, which I've broken down in the show many times, go watch my San Diego Browns episode, and the one I did a couple months ago where it says if you don't align with our vision. It's Paulie Podesta looking like right at the coach and GM with like this mean look. Go look it up in the thumbnail. You'll see it in the top of the videos. It was one of my more viewership ones I can't talk today. One of the most viewed ones I've had. So there we go. But sorry, my mind. I got a lot of thoughts in my mind right now, guys. I got a lot. I got a lot of thoughts about all this, and that's why I'm sharing it today, because I think there's a lot more going on here behind the scenes, which is why I'm calling it a civil war in Berea. And I think it's between Myles Garrett and Jimmy Haslam. And I think you're hearing a lot of fans this week obviously pissed at Myles going on Media Row. And, could Myles maybe have went about it a little differently? Possibly, but Myles was just being Myles, though, in terms of his honesty. And he's always going to be honest. And I'm curious, what do you guys think about Andrew Berry speaking as bully as he did publicly before Myles? Again, remember, Andrew Berry's a guy who's never really spoken publicly like that before about internal things. He's even said it on the record. He's not speaking about business-like things with the team publicly, but he did it. So how did that make Myles feel? And I'm curious what you guys do. You guys think Andrew Berry really should take more blame in a lot of this for how he went about it? Did he piss off Myles, and that's why Myles went public with it? Right? But I think something happened within the last month. You don't go from sitting on Hard Knocks saying, we're closer than people think. Why would you say that? And then now all of a sudden you're basically saying we're not close at all. And I want the hell out of here. And I want to go. He even said as far yesterday to say, even a team on the rise that could possibly become a contender. And so you just said that's kind of what the Browns were a month ago. But now all of a sudden you want out. It don't add up. Something's wrong here. Something happened internally between Myles Garrett, Andrew Berry, Paulie Podesta probably a little bit, and Jimmy Haslam. Now, some people think Paulie Podesta's gotten phased out. Possibly. The way Jimmy Haslam spoke about him before the season, saying we're going to keep him around and he's an important part of our important figure in our organization, and we're going to give him an extension. I'll believe it when I see it. Until I see the Browns come out and say that we're not continuing with Paulie Podesta or that he's really not as involved, I'm not buying into this whole rumor mill stuff that he's getting phased out and all that stuff, because for the last 10 years almost, since 2016, this guy's been involved with everything. So why should I believe? He's outlasted every coach and GM for the last almost 10 years. So how should I believe now that he's phased out? I don't, especially when I see, this GM get a pass constantly for doing a mediocre job, really. And now we're going to choose the GM over a Hall of Fame player. We're going to trade Myles Garrett. And by the way, Diana Rossini put out a report yesterday that said, how the Browns, talking about this whole Browns and Myles Garrett thing, Myles is doubling down on it and he wants out of here. And there was a quote in there that says, quote, from NFC and AFC executives who have called the Browns about a potential trade and asking the Browns what it would be. The Browns have told them, quote, "We are not moving on from him, ... but stay tuned," end quote. Okay. So we are not moving on from him, ... but stay tuned. Basically saying that right now we don't want to talk about it, but we may, basically we're going to open that door eventually and see what we can get for him. Right? Doesn't mean they're going to commit to trading, but they are going to entertain it. But like Denzel said, if you're an organization that's trying to win, why would you even entertain trading a Hall of Famer to begin with? Why would you trade him, number one, let alone entertain it? It don't make sense. You're not trying to win now if you're trying to get rid of Myles Garrett. And so, are we picking Andrew Berry in the Geek Squad over Myles Garrett, Jimmy Haslam? What has Andrew Berry done to just solidify his job? He's not Howie Rosen. He's not the Chiefs GM. He's not the Rams GM. He's not the 49ers GM. He's not. He ain't Mike Vrabel even. He's not. I mean, what has this guy done? And he's a nice guy, and he's done some good things. He's nailed a couple picks here and there, but what has this guy done overall in 5 years to say he's a slam dunk GM? Like, we got to keep it. We can't let this guy walk out the door. I could see the argument for Stefanski, and I think I give Stefanski more grace because the bullshit Stefanski's had to put up with since he's been here, and not having the full autonomy to run the show the way he should as a head coach because he doesn't have it. But I don't really blame Andrew Berry fully because I think Andrew Berry's just a good soldier. It's all about Paul DePodesta. That's why I keep going back to this guy. And the real reason why Myles Garrett wants the hell out of Cleveland was when he said, "I don't align with him." What he's really saying is, I don't align with this. I don't align with the San Diego Browns and this philosophy, this vision that Paul DePodesta brought to the team back in 2016 when he got here. Players are tired of it, and I bet he's not the only one. All the players know this is all bullshit with this guy. And here, let me make one thing clear. My criticism of Paul DePodesta in the last how many months is not personal, right? He might be a very nice man. Obviously, he's pretty smart in something. I mean, look how far he's made it, right? But in terms of football and what he's done with the Browns since he's been here, it's not worth keeping around. It's time to move on. I don't think his philosophy may work a little more in baseball where he had a little more success, but in football, his philosophy doesn't work for the role he has, right? It can't dominate your organization like it has the Cleveland Browns. And that's the problem, right? And that's why you see guys like Baker Mayfield when they leave this organization. Remember when Baker left, a lot of people said, "Oh, he's a bust. He's not going to be anything," right? And then you see the Browns from ESPN, that poll I brought up earlier from the survey, that the Browns are the most analytical team in the league. Who's the least analytical team in the league? The Buccaneers. How about that? So Baker went from the most analytical team in the league, went to a shit organization with the Panthers where they had no stability at the time, finally lands in some stability in LA with Sean McVay, and then finds a Super Bowl winning organization, the Buccaneers, who's the least analytical team in the league. And now look what Baker Mayfield is, a solid NFL quarterback who you can go with. Maybe they paid $3 years, $100 million for, right? And so, and Baker's obviously clearly better than anything we have on the roster, and that we've had in the last, since we came back in '99. He's the best quarterback we've had, obviously. But we let him walk out the door, and I think we let Baker walk out the door too because of San Diego. And it's like that report, and remember back in 2021 from Tony Grossi. What it says here. Paul DePodesta has pretty much convinced owner Jimmy Haslam the only way to build a Super Bowl team is by consistently throwing the ball for explosive plays in the passing game. Apparently, no matter the weather conditions, Stefanski and offensive coordinator Alex Van Pelt will insist that their system is rooted in the running game. But that is true only to the extent that the Browns desire an effective running game, essentially to set up a play-action passing game. Eventually, they want those play-action passes to be more frequently laden with deep shots downfield, and that is where Deshaun Watson comes in. The bottom line is, Stefanski's job is safe because he is completely adhering to DePodesta's advanced statistics, or quote analytics, parentheses or analytics, models, and not resisting them. Disagreeing with or rejecting DePodesta's research means Stefanski's quickest ticket out of town. And that seems to be more true now. I mean, this guy's outlasted every coach and executive since 2016, since he's been here. And now we're going to let Myles Garrett walk out the door because Jimmy Haslam thinks we need to keep this guy's vision and philosophy in the organization? I think if the Browns had a real president of football operations, a real football guy, I don't think Myles would be doing what he's doing right now. I really don't. Doesn't mean Myles may not request a trade still, but I don't think he would be going public as he is now, and taking it kind of personal. And I think he has a right to take it personal too, because what Andrew Berry said, publicly for the last 2 weeks, 3 weeks ago, 2 weeks ago at the Senior Bowl, clearly hit a nerve of Myles, or really struck a nerve of Myles. That's why he mentioned in that letter, my goal is not to go from Cleveland to Canton, buddy. And he's pointing directly at Andrew Berry when he said that. So I think this is a civil war, obviously, like I've been saying. And that's why my theme of my show today is there's a civil war brewing in Cleveland. And that's my take. And so let me know what you guys think about all this, right? Because I broke a lot of this down today and kind of shared some of the insight too about what's the people in the front office connected with Myles' agency, right? And how this could be a civil war brewing between Myles Garrett and ownership, really Jimmy Haslam. And so fascinating though. This is gonna be a long. I think this is probably gonna be a longer process than people want it to be. It's gonna be a fascinating couple months leading up into the draft with this occurring, and now you got the other stuff too, which I'm gonna get into. I'm gonna mention on the back end here, but Joe Thomas, my favorite player of all time. I wore 73 because of Joe Thomas. He gave his take on all of this with the Myles Garrett thing. And I love how Joe went about this. He took his time this week and reflected on it. I love Joe Thomas, how he went about this. And I thought what Joe Thomas said here, who knows the organization pretty well, has done work for the organization since he's retired. Greatest left tackle, greatest low lineman, one of the greatest players, obviously, in the history of the organization. One of the best left tackles of his era, maybe the best. Here's what Joe Thomas had to say about all this and what his thoughts are on Myles Garrett trade request situation with the Browns.
I'm down in New Orleans covering the Super Bowl 59 for the NFL, and here are a few thoughts that I've had this week after Myles Garrett's trade request on this week's Cup of Joe. Now, Myles Garrett's trade request has rocked Browns Nation. He's the reigning Defensive Player of the Year, and he wants out. But this really isn't just about one player losing faith in the team's ability to win a Super Bowl. It's a reflection of the franchise's current state, a direct result of the disastrous trade for Deshaun Watson. But more than that, it forces the Browns in the most critical offseason in team history. Garrett's been a foundation of the Cleveland defense for years. He's played at a Hall of Fame level since he was a rookie. Yet, despite the dominance that he has shown, the Browns have failed to build a team capable of sustained success. So his request really isn't about disloyalty to Cleveland. Don't make that mistake, right? It's more about making the most of his career while he's still in his prime. Now, he understands what it takes to play at the level he's been playing at, the grind, the pain, the sacrifice that you have to put into it. He knows without that clear path in his mind to a championship, he's just not going to be able to put his body on the line the same way every single be great. So this really isn't just a business decision. It's a personal one for Myles because he knows that every snap, it costs him something physically. Every collision chips away what's left of his career. And he's aware of that. And now he's decided that he wants to act on it because he knows mentally he can't go on at this level without a legitimate shot to win that Super Bowl. Now, it really hurts. It hurts Browns fans. It hurts me. It hurts current and former players to know that he wants to be traded. I mean, he's the reigning defensive player of the year. He's Mr. Cleveland. He's tied into that community. And for me, it's a little bit personal because now I'm not going to take any credit for his greatness, but I was on the team when he was a rookie. And it was great to see the effort, commitment that he put in to make himself great. The way I was able to help him with little tips as a rookie and see how he's blossomed into now the most dominant pass rusher this league may have ever seen. It gives me a lot of pride just watching him. And I know that I have a lot of relief knowing that he's not working me over anymore. And I feel really bad for those tackles he's got to play. But it does suck to know that he's ready to move on. I've called him the Bowser of pass rushers because he's kind of like the last guy on planet Earth that you have to see as an offensive lineman before you win the Princess. Nobody's harder. On one pass rush, I guarantee he is the hardest of all time. Now, I wrote an article a little while ago called Move the Drill. It was right after I hurt my elbow, and it's all about figuring out where you are, accepting that reality, moving on, and that no one player is bigger than the team because the train's going to keep moving on. And you've got to be able to look at the situation you're in and deal with the cards that you've been dealt. Now, he went on Radio Row last week and flirted with fan bases across the league. Became pretty clear to me that it wasn't about money, this trade request. He'd already moved the drill in his mind. He's done in Cleveland. And as much as that hurts, like I said, Browns fans, we need to accept it. We need to focus on what comes next. Don't dwell on the past. We need to move the drill too. And that's why this is the most important offseason in Browns history, because the front office has several things to do that are very important. Obviously, number one is finding that franchise quarterback with the second pick in the draft. Number two, though, it's maximizing the leverage with Myles' trade value because he's marketed himself directly to fan bases, and that's actually good for both sides. Number three, use that draft capital for Myles' trade to find his replacement. And number four, you got to build a team that can fill holes in the roster, right? Running back, offensive line, defensive line, receiver. This is a massive undertaking, but let's not forget this roster, even with the flaws that we have, is only 2 years removed from going 11-6 and making the playoffs with Joe Flacco under center. So this is a team that's built to win now. If the Browns can handle all these things the right way, and that's a big if they can do that and they can wield Myles Garrett's trade value like a samurai sword, they could come out on the other side with multiple first and second round picks in the next couple of drafts. And that could create a nucleus that can allow this team to compete immediately and set us up for sustained success. So the question becomes, right, will Cleveland recognize the opportunity and move the drill, or are they going to cling to false hope and keep fans stuck in the factory of sadness for years to come?
So, a lot of what Joe Thomas said there kind of goes with what I said today and why I think there's a civil war in Berea. And Joe Thomas really sided with Myles on a lot of things. Quote, they failed to build a team around him. Quote, he's done in Cleveland, right? When he said, it's not about the money, he said, when I watch Myles on Media Row, it's not about the money. He's done here. Quote, we need to pivot too. It's a big offseason in Cleveland. And then he said also at the end, when he lists all the things that maybe they could do to help to build the team, he said, quote, it's a big if. And, when I listen to Joe Thomas there, I hear him siding with Myles, backing Myles, telling fans basically that, we shouldn't be upset with Myles or say that he's, kind of trash in the city or anything. But also, I hear Joe Thomas also kind of saying his front office stinks and that they suck and that we shouldn't really put a lot of faith in them. He said it's a big if they can even get this done. And he also said, too, they failed to put a team around him. Well, who's been here the whole time since Myles Garrett got drafted? Oh, that's right, Paulie Podesta, who's outlasted everybody in Cleveland. Right? Who outlasted everybody since 2016. And Paulie Podesta, who also wanted to take Mitch Trubisky over Myles Garrett. Remember that? That came out last week. How about that? So when I listen to Joe Thomas, I hear a guy who's siding with Myles Garrett, probably knows all the bullshit Myles knows, and then what really goes on behind the scenes in the organization, what's shadowing the organization. All the players agree with Myles, it seems like. Here's Denzel Ward talking about it I think it was to Mary Kay Cabot last week. as well. Um, is it right here? Yeah, here's Denzel last week. What he thinks about it.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, I think you just gotta understand. You understand where he's coming from. He wants to win. He's a winner. He wants to compete for championships and contend for the Super Bowl. So I understand it, but it's tough. It's tough. It has a huge impact, honestly. I mean, I want to play with Myles Garrett. Like he's a Hall of Fame player. I came in the league. He was on the team, and that's my guy. So um, I've been talking to him, and I know he said that he wants out and wants but I'm not just got to hear where he's coming from. He wants to win, so I mean we'll see what the near future holds. I want to be in Cleveland. I want to win. Like I said, I'm definitely keeping an eye on what Myles has going on and what's he doing. But like I said, I want to play with Myles Garrett, and I don't know. We just gotta wait and see. You know.
All right. So, and he went on to say too, he doesn't say it not like he doesn't want to be here, but he kind of coincided with Myles said, like, I want to play some meaningful games too. And I don't want to be a part of another rebuild. Right. That's what Denzel was alluding to there. And so when I hear Joe Thomas again, though, when I hear him talk and say all that, how I think he was siding with Myles, but also when I go back to my point earlier, and I see you in the chat now, Parent John. Good to see you, brother. He said, I love Myles, but him going around and asking what teams he wants to go to is lame. You don't have leverage. Yeah, that part, him talking about what teams he wants to go to, you're right there. He doesn't have leverage. But here's what I what I said earlier, Parent John, I don't know if you saw this, but going back to that point now, because it kind of all goes together, is, Myles knew what he was doing when he dropped that letter. He knew he was already scheduled to go on Media Row last week because he was as a spokesperson for the yogurt Oikos. And so he did it intentionally. But what changed in a month, right? What changed in a month when, remember the Hard Knocks episode in the AFC North Hard Knocks, when the last one the Browns were featured in, and Myles said, I met with the upper management and we talked about where we are, where we're going. And he said, I think we're a lot closer than we think. Well, a little over a month ago, Myles, you said we're a lot closer than you think. Right. And then now all of a sudden, what changed in a month where now you're like, get me the hell out of town. And then you even went along as far yesterday to say, I'll do whatever it takes. And he even said on the ESPN show yesterday, if it's a team that's up and coming, that could become a contender, not even a contender, a becoming contender team, which is kind of what he said the Browns were a month ago. So what changed in a month? And then, the only thing, and like I said, the only thing I could point back to in the month is Andrew Berry's actions. Andrew Berry took it upon himself, which we'd never really seen him do, speak about business things publicly like he did with Myles, saying, I'm not going to trade him no matter what. My goal is for him to go from Cleveland to Canton. And he said, you could put that on the record, quote. And then you hear Myles take that, what he said, and put in his letter and take a direct shot at Andrew Berry saying, my goal is not to go from Cleveland to Canton. It's to win Super Bowls. Something's going on internally. There's a civil war in Berea. And that's why I've called it that. It's a civil war. And I think everybody knows it. Joe Thomas knows it. Denzel knows it. Everybody knows what's really going on here. And that, yes, Myles doesn't really have trade leverage. And trading Myles Garrett, even right now, is very complicated. They can't trade Myles right now because it would kill him in the cap. Number one, I think, and Jason Lloyd mentioned this on the Ultimate Sports Show, that they can't trade him right now. A lot of people covering the Browns right now looked in the financial side of it. It's impossible for them to trade him right now. They can't do it. And even after the new league year starts, it's still complicated. So, and you're never going to get equal value what you want from Myles Garrett. You know what I mean? He and is Andrew Berry going to all of a sudden trade Myles Garrett for less than 2 first-round picks when he said he wouldn't even trade him for 2 first-round picks? That looks real bad. So I think Myles has, to my opinion, Myles has a deeper agenda with all this. And I think a lot of the players are behind Myles. I think people like Joe Thomas knows what Myles is heading with this. And he probably agrees with Myles. It's probably something that should have been done a long time ago. And they're forcing Jimmy Haslam's hands what they're doing. And that's why it's a civil war. And so this is going to get probably a little more ugly before it gets better. It may not get better. Fans might be pissed at the end if they trade him and it looks bad. We got fleeced on a trade. But it's going to get a little uglier, right? And I think I'm curious to see what the Browns' next counter move is, because the Browns keep saying that we're not trading him, stand still. And you hear the Diana Rossini quote, we're not moving on from him, but, stay tuned. So where's this going to go? I don't know. It's going to get it's probably going to get a little more ugly. And I think the Browns know it too because who Myles runs his agency. They don't play. When they want something done, they will do whatever it takes to get it done. You're not going to out media Clutch Sports, clearly. So if you know what I mean, you know. Great Lakes. Shout out to Great Lakes. He said the new definition of insanity is imagining the Browns are going to suddenly get things right. Mr. Haslam's 13 years of effort has provided provided one NFL distinction, 0-16 and 0-16. Again, 0-16. Fire everybody now. I agree with that. Fire everybody. Definitely in the front office. Let's grab Carter at 2 and QB next year. Might be where they go. Build the lines in this draft. I mean, I think when you watch the Eagles last night, they definitely are showing why the line of scrimmage is all. History of football tells you why the line of scrimmage is most important on both sides. So, good point there, Parent John. Gray Lake said trade this year. This year's no. For 2 next year. Use our number 1 to move up for a quarterback. That's what it will take. More importantly, get a GM who can identify talent. You hit the nail on the head there. Obviously, the current crew can't. Yes, and I think that's really what Myles' biggest problem. I think Myles' biggest gripe, why he wants out now, is because he doesn't believe in these guys to turn it around. You hear what Joe Thomas said there. He said it's a quote, a big if. Nobody really believes this front office can turn this team around, this organization around. People believe in Stefanski, but they don't believe in these guys, Paulie Podesta and Andrew Berry. And I think it's really more Paulie Podesta and his vision. He's overshadowed everybody. I keep saying it. He's outlasted everybody for the last 9 years. So Andrew Berry's just really a good soldier. And so that's why he got the job over George Patton. And so who's now killing it with the Broncos. But anyways, yeah. I think that's what this is all coming down to that, in my opinion. These guys don't have the confidence in this front office to turn it around. And why should they? Why should anybody? It's so I love Browns. I am a Browns fan. But when I hear Browns fans this week throwing it all on Myles, and I hear people in the media and on YouTube, these people sitting there not to say trash Myles, but kind of like shifting the blame towards Myles, and that, oh my gosh, this media thing is just the worst thing. This whole media row appearance thing is just the worst thing ever. And he's just trashing the city. You got to side with I heard somebody, you got to side with your city no matter what. I'm like, man, that's bullshit. If somebody keeps doing something bad to you, or how do I want to analogize this? I mean, it's almost like if you went to the same restaurant and you went one time and they gave you food poisoning, right? And then you went back a second time, they gave you food poisoning again. And you just keep going back and back, and you keep getting food poisoning from the same restaurant, but you keep going back. That's what our Browns front office is. They've given us nothing but food poisoning for the last 5 years since they've been in charge, really 9 years with Paulie Podesta. It's just been nothing but, every now and then, the sickness might not be as bad, right? You may just have, bubble guts for a night, but a lot of nights you're fucking shitting your brains out, get graphic, but you're puking all over the place, right? That's what this Browns front office is. They've been feeding us food poisoning for years. But Browns fans, when I hear people say you got to side with your city no matter what, I'm like, hey, man, the Browns haven't represented the city of Cleveland. Because the city of Cleveland is a tough city, doesn't put up with bullshit, has endured a lot, and great people trying to grow, and smart people. You're not too far from the football capital, the Hall of Fame, and Northeast Ohio is one of the best Friday night football places, one of the best talent development areas in the country. So I don't want to hear about this. We need to side with our city. They don't represent us. These people in charge of the Browns don't really look like they don't know what the hell they're doing, number one, but also they don't represent us. When has Cleveland ever this full analytical geek squad? Never. That doesn't fit Cleveland. That could fit in Seattle or somewhere out in California or something like that. It ain't gonna fit here in Cleveland. And so, but when I hear people saying fans need to turn on Myles and say you always got to back your team up, maybe your team's wrong. That team that keeps feeding you that bad food that gives you food poisoning, we're just supposed to keep buying it and eating it and consuming it? No. If anything, Myles Garrett might be doing the fans a service if he can pull this off, what I think he might be trying to do. And so, again, it's just a different take. I'm not saying that's what he's doing, but it's an observation. Because like I said, how the hell do you go from We're not that far away from winning to all of a sudden, give me the hell out of town. I'm going on Media Row, and any chance I get, I'm going on there and telling them, get me the hell out of here. I'm leaving. I'm done. So again, I don't know. These players and people in the organization and people like Joe Thomas do not have faith in this front office, and neither should you. Because why? Tell me why. Why should you have faith in these guys? And I'm gonna pull it up here again. Where is it? Oh, I went backwards. Wait, hold on. 5, 4, 3, 2. Where is it? Damn it. I got so many slides, guys, because I've done so much on this stuff. Oh, here it is right here. Why should you have faith in these guys? I mean, that's who's running your team right now. And that's their grade right there, F-. We're going to pick the Geek Squad over Myles Garrett. And there's people online in YouTube space and in the media telling you that. They're saying it without saying it, that you should side with these guys over Myles Garrett. And I'm not trying to beef in the media people, nothing. I don't take shots in the way, but I'm just saying, I'm really questioning a lot of these people's intentions. Like, hey man, what payroll are you on? Like, are you that, or do you like these guys? Because I think a lot of people like these guys because they identify with them. You know, the full analytical thing gives people an outlet to talk about a game they really don't know nothing about. But I'm just telling you, I'd really question when somebody tells you that you should side with your team no matter what in this situation, this whole Myles Garrett thing. I would really question a lot of what they say, and do your own research and kind of look into what players say and what other great organizations do in the NFL and how they operate. And they don't operate like this. And so he said, who cares what changed in a month? He's come to a conclusion, live with it. Don't disparage him. He's publicly making an ass out of an organization that should be called out. Well, I agree. That's my whole point today. But if you look at the timeline, Great Lakes, it does matter. Why did a month ago he said we're closer than we think, and then all of a sudden, so you guys got to pay attention. You got to look deeper. It's not just as simple as he wants out. No, there's something more he wants. You can't just. Myles knows. He's not stupid. He knows he can't just get traded like that. And he was asked last week by Rich Eisen. Rich Eisen said they don't have to just trade you. And Myles said, I know that, and he's willing to go down that road. Now, what does that road look like? What he will do? I have no idea, but I think it can get real ugly real fast. And Myles probably has a good amount of more power than people think, especially in the media space, where they can control narratives, or not only control narratives, but he can get certain things out there if he wants it. I'm just saying. But a lot of what you said there, Grelix, is what I just brought up. I mean, you and I think we're actually thinking the same thing. But yeah. But it does matter, though, because why I say it matters from what he said a month ago to now is because I think he's trying to do, there's something more to what he's trying to do here. It's more than just, I just want to be traded. Why does he want to be traded, right? In order for fans have to start looking at things a different way. If you really want your team to be successful and you want to get somewhere, going back to what you said earlier, Great Lakes, but obviously this current crew can't get this job done. Well, they're not. Clearly, the owner's going to side with the GM over the Myles Garrett in this situation. To me, that's what it looks like. So we can't just say move forward and it's over with. Oh, well. No, in order to fix a problem, you have to observe a problem and come to a conclusion of what's causing the issue. And that's how you have to fix it. And so until fans and more media and people in the media really start calling it out like it is, and we all know what the real problem is, it's Angel Berry and Paul DeVesta, we could sit up there and talk about, let's get 26 draft picks and stockpile and all this stuff. And well, number one, you have to nail the picks. Number two, you have to have somebody that's good in negotiation. And number three, you have somebody that can identify talent. We don't have any of that right now. So just trading Myles Garrett away and getting as many assets, okay, what are you going to do with it? What, do you trust people in charge, these people, to get it right? Because if you do, you clearly have forgotten what you watched on the field the last 5 years and where the organization is right now. I mean, we've made a couple playoff appearances. I think more thanks to Stefanski. And then when, San Diego tries to get involved, and that's the whole reason why Alex Van Pelt got fired after an 11-5 season with Joe Flacco and all the success they had We fire the offensive coordinator because, according to Albert Breer, who's pretty plugged in, Jimmy Haslam and Paulie Modesto wanted to build more things around their investment, which is Deshaun Watson. And how did that turn out? Shit show. So, if Berea doesn't hit in this draft, we will be back picking at the top, and he will be jobless. Will he really be jobless, though? Because I think he's just a good soldier. And if they trade Myles Garrett, I don't. That, to me, it signals that the ownership's picking Myles Garrett over, or excuse me, ownership is siding with this front office over Myles Garrett. That's why I said earlier, it's a civil war between those two right there, Myles Garrett and ownership. So do we really think he would actually? So imagine that. Imagine if he trades Myles Garrett this offseason, and then next year the Browns flunk like Parent John says, and then we fire Andrew Berry. That's horrible. Absolutely horrible if that happens. How dumb does Jimmy have to be? Clearly, this is not working. I just wonder how he became a billionaire. He's not that smart. Or what do you say? He's become a billionaire. Sorry, my computer's glitching. Oh, he's not that very smart. LOL. Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I mean, he is a smart man, obviously. I mean, I would think not the much wealth he's made, but in terms of coming to, when it comes to football and stuff, hasn't been great. He's hired the wrong people. He's got the wrong people in his ear. And that's been the biggest issue, in my opinion. He's been influenced by the wrong people, like Mr. Paulie Podesta. But that's my take on all that today. Why I think there's a civil war brewing in Cleveland. Let me know what you guys think about it. Before I close today, though, I want to hit on this, though. Deion Sanders made some comments, and I've mentioned on my show 2 weeks ago how I think it's looking more and more likely that Shedeur Sanders could be the pick at number 2. And maybe this is all connected to Myles, too. Maybe Myles doesn't want them to pick quarterback at 2. Maybe he doesn't want to do another rookie quarterback. Maybe Myles wants them to pick Abdul Carter, maybe go after like a veteran somewhere. I don't know. Maybe Aaron Rodgers or something. I don't know. But I do find it interesting, the more stuff coming out about the Browns linked to Shedeur Sanders. So as all this Myles Garrett stuff's going on, and Andrew Berry has spoken publicly about this too, about how he said he doesn't think it'll be an issue and that he spoke very highly of Shedeur. I wonder if this is the Browns' plan. This is the front office's plan that maybe Myles doesn't like, and that we're going to go with a rookie quarterback. And I bring this up because where is it? Deion Sanders last week. I have it right here. Right here. It says Deion Sanders turns head with statement on Browns. And Deion Sanders was on the Dan Patrick show, and he said that, quote, he really wants to be a face of the franchise. Deion Sanders said on the Rich Eisen show, I think he's going to be one of the top 3 picks for sure. I have spoken to all but one. He said that's the Titans. So he's spoken to the Browns and the Giants, but he has not spoken to the Titans. And a lot of the feel is that the Titans are going to take Cam Ward at number 1. That's what a lot of people are the feeling coming out of Senior Bowl and just the Super Bowl week, that the Titans are, for a while now, it's been the Titans are going to take Cam Ward. And so I hear more of this Shedeur Sanders to Cleveland stuff, and I think it's becoming more real. I mean, I think Deion's entertained by it. I think Deion wants his son to be in the top 3. So here's how I view this thing. I think it's either one or two things. That the Browns have basically told Shedeur Sanders, if you're there at 2, we're going to take you. And maybe it's Kevin Stefanski, who finally attended the Shrine Bowl and I think attended the Senior Bowl as well, which he had done for 5 years, which is crazy, but he finally attended it, so maybe he's more involved this offseason. Maybe there's a lot of connections there between Kevin and Deion backdoor-wise. Obviously, Pat Shermer was Shedeur's OC at Colorado, who's connected with Deion Sanders. Or not Deion Sanders, with Kevin Stefanski. You look that up, Pat Shermer and Kevin Stefanski's relationship back throughout the NFL, or throughout their history in the league. I think back to the Vikings. I think when Shermer was going to get the job with the Giants, where they shifted, the Giants didn't hire him, that they eventually ended up taking, I can't remember who they took over him, but he was going to take Kevin Stefanski's offensive coordinator. And so there's a lot of connections here. You obviously remember the Bill Musgrave thing with Deion Sanders. Bill Musgrave's the Browns quarterback coach. That whole thing came out last week. And so a lot of connections here. And so I think it's one or two things that the Browns have told Deion Sanders that, or told Shador Sanders and Deion that, hey, if you're there too, we're going to take you. Or this is all just trade bait. And that Deion Sanders is trying to play the game the nice way, because he did say there's some teams that he would say no to. And so could Deion just be trying to play it off cool? Like, I'm not trying to kill that narrative that he would kill, tell a team that you can't take Shador, trying to kill that narrative. And maybe the Browns are using that as trade bait, trying to get more assets possibly from another team. And I think a team to possibly look out for that could call the Browns to try to get up to number 2 is the New York Jets at 7. Obviously, the Jets came out yesterday and said that they are not bringing back Aaron Rodgers and that he's done there in New York. So what's their plan? They just brought a new head coach and Aaron Glenn. So what are they going to do? I would think they would try to go get a rookie quarterback. But a lot of people think after these two guys in the draft that it really drops down to the later picks in the draft, second, third round. They're not going to get Cam Ward. He's probably going number 1. So to get Shador, if they want him, you'd probably have to jump to 2 to get ahead of the Giants at 3. Because I think if Shador's there at 3, the Giants are going to take him probably. And so I keep an eye on the Jets. They have the 7th overall pick, and there's been a lot of rumors between Garrett Wilson and the Browns. Maybe could that be a package where they trade 7 and Garrett Wilson for number 2? And would you guys like that trade? Maybe, and obviously a little more probably, second round picks or whatever, little incentive stuff. But could that be a possible trade partner? And maybe could this all just be smoke? I don't know. I think it's one or two things, but I think there's definitely something there brewing between the Browns and and Shador Sanders. And it's either they've told him, if you're there too, we're going to take you, or the Browns are using all this as kind of like trade bait and trying to maybe get the team like the Jets to give them more, maybe like, hey, throw in Garrett Wilson in the deal, and we'll give you number 2 and give us number 7. I don't know. What do you guys think? And so that's my take on all this. Let me know what you guys think. Is there a civil war brewing in Berea? I think there is. And I'm really curious what you guys think about all this. Leave in the comments below. And let me know what you guys think too. What do you think they should, if they do trade Myles, what do you want to get back? Do you want to trade Myles at all? Should Jimmy Haslam go ahead and just wipe out the front office right now? Boy, maybe he could salvage something with Myles. I don't know. Is it even salvageable at all? Let me know in the comments below. Let me know what you guys think. I'm just curious. I'm just observing like you guys. So like, subscribe, share all that good stuff, and I'll see you guys in the next one. I'm out of here. Go.